Randolph Scott was born George Randolph Scott on January 23, 1898, in Orange County, Virginia. He came from a distinguished Southern lineage that prized education, discipline, and moral character, values that would shape both his personal identity and his enduring screen image. His father, George Grant Scott, was a respected textile executive, while his mother, Lucille Crane Scott, represented the elegance and refinement of Southern womanhood. As the second of 7 children, he grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina, surrounded by structure, tradition, and an understated confidence that would later define his Hollywood presence. Scott's early schooling took place in private institutions before he attended the Georgia Institute of Technology and later the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. At first, he planned to pursue a career in business or engineering, much like his father. But fate had other ideas. After serving with distinction as an artillery officer in France during World War I, Scott returned home with a renewed sense of purpose. A trip to California in the early 1920s unexpectedly set him on a different path. Captivated by the burgeoning film industry, he decided to give acting a try. With his tall, athletic frame, striking looks, and Southern charm, he immediately caught the eyes of casting directors. He began at the very bottom, working as a stunt performer and extra, before gradually moving into speaking roles. His rise wasn't overnight. It was built on persistence, humility, and discipline, qualities that distinguished him in an industry often driven by ego. By the late 1920s, Scott had become a recognizable figure in silent cinema and transitioned smoothly to sound films, thanks to his commanding, resonant voice. Over the 1930s and 1940s, he appeared in a wide range of films, from comedies to dramas, but it was the Western genre that cemented his legend. He starred in beloved classics such as The Last of the Mohicans, 1936, Western Union, 1941, and The Desperado, 1943. His characters embodied a new vision of the Western hero, composed, morally unwavering, and quietly powerful. These roles mirrored his own upbringing, principled men who faced challenges with inner strength rather than bluster. Unlike many of his contemporaries, Scott sidestepped the temptations of Hollywood excess. He became known for his professionalism, modesty, and laser focus on his craft. His collaborations with director Bud Boetticher in the 1950s produced some of the most critically acclaimed westerns ever made, including 7 Men from Now, 1956, Ride Lonesome, 1959, and Comanche Station, 1960. These films showcased him as a man shaped by the past, yet guided by an unshakable sense of right and wrong. His final screen appearance came in Ride the High Country, 1962, directed by Sam Peckinpah. In it, Scott portrayed an aging lawman determined to hold on to his principles in a shifting world, a role that mirrored his own graceful exit from Hollywood. Retiring at the height of his dignity, Scott turned to real estate and investments, ultimately becoming one of the wealthiest actors of his generation. Despite his financial success, he lived quietly and devoted himself to family life. Scott's personal relationships revealed 2 contrasting chapters of his life. In 1936, he married heiress Marion DuPont, heiress to the powerful DuPont industrial dynasty. Marion, the daughter of William DuPont Sr. and great-granddaughter of company founder Eleuthère Irénée DuPont, was a woman of strength and independence. She was a renowned horsewoman who transformed Montpelier, the historic Virginia estate of President James Madison, into a prestigious breeding and training center. Their marriage was glamorous but strained. Scott's career was rooted in Hollywood, while Marion's life revolved around East Coast high society and the world of equestrian sports. Living largely separate lives, they divorced amicably in 1939. Interestingly, Marion continued using the name Marion DuPont Scott until her death in 1983, a quiet nod to the significance of their bond. His second marriage, to actress Patricia Stillman in 1944, brought him stability and contentment. Patricia, who was 21 years younger, left her acting ambitions behind to focus on their family. The couple adopted 2 children, Sandra and Christopher, in 1950. Those who knew Scott described him as a loving husband and devoted father. Their marriage lasted more than 40 years, unmarred by scandal, a rarity in Hollywood, ending only with his death. In the cinematic world of westerns, Randolph Scott and John Wayne were towering figures, each representing a different vision of rugged masculinity. Audiences often assumed they were allies, but privately, Scott harbored a deep and lasting dislike for Wayne. Their differences were rooted not in direct competition, but in values, temperament, and their divergent views of what the West symbolized. "I never cared for the man," Scott admitted later in life. "He stood for everything in Hollywood I didn't respect." Scott approached acting with restraint and craftsmanship, letting silence and subtlety define his characters. Wayne, by contrast, embodied brashness, loud, swaggering, and larger than life. "Wayne was a showman," Scott said. "I was a craftsman. There's a difference." To Scott, Wayne's portrayals felt like Hollywood myth-making, flash-over authenticity. Though their careers occasionally ran parallel, the industry often compared their box office success. Studios liked to stir rivalry, but Scott dismissed it. "We were playing 2 different games." His films explored moral ambiguity and internal struggles, while Wayne's favored spectacle and patriotic certainty. Scott found Wayne's approach simplistic. "I played men who questioned their choices," he noted. Wayne played men who never questioned anything. Their personal differences only deepened the divide. Scott was reserved, soft-spoken, and avoided political grandstanding. Wayne was loud, opinionated, and politically vocal, especially about war. Scott was also stung by Wayne's offhand remarks, particularly when Wayne once called him too pretty to play a real cowboy. Scott never forgot the slight. "He thought being loud made him real," he later said. "I thought being real meant being quiet, perhaps." The deepest fracture came from Wayne's avoidance of military service during World War I. Let's go. While Scott respected those who remained stateside for valid reasons, he couldn't stomach seeing Wayne portray fearless heroes on screen after declining to serve. "I didn't judge men who stayed home," Scott said, "but I couldn't respect those who acted like soldiers on film after refusing to be one in real life." To him, it epitomized Wayne's hypocrisy. Scott's disdain was never loud or vindictive. He kept his opinions private until late in life, when he spoke candidly. "I respected his success," he said, "but I never respected the man." Their quiet feud became part of Hollywood folklore. Scott brought moral gravity and subtlety to the Western genre. Wayne brought spectacle and swagger. Ironically, their contrasting approaches helped keep the genre balanced. But Scott's feelings never changed. "John Wayne," he said coolly, "was the last man I'd ride the range with." Randolph Scott passed away in 1987 at age 89 in Beverly Hills due to heart and lung complications. He was buried in Elmwood Cemetery in Charlotte, North Carolina, beside Patricia, who died in 2004. Though their Beverly Hills home was demolished in 2008, Scott's legacy endures. His personal archives, letters, photographs, and memorabilia are preserved at UCLA's Special Collections, offering a rare glimpse into the life of one of Hollywood's most enigmatic figures. Scott represented discipline, honor, and quiet strength. He shaped the image of the Western hero in his own likeness, and behind that composed exterior was a man who, for all his dignity, could hold on to his convictions and his grudges with unwavering resolve.